Yeah. Yeah, so it's political things, religious things. No, we are Asian. We are Asian. So we're talking about kind of Asian things, right?
Oh, food. Yeah, please. Oh, food. Oh.
So for example, it's not only political things, but just so, like for example, in Malaysia, India is, let's say for example, this how it is very religion. You don't you omit very important things like Christian knowledge, like skills, qualifications and things. And also, you know, this program. Okay, so yeah, yeah. So like you kind of see in the picture, for example, you see a man calling out people on social media, calling out, listen, calling out on people on social media, but then you see a soldier holding a gun, it's like outside the home. But what you don't see is another soldier operating a hand and calling out. So we talk about how bad censorship is. It depends on which side of argument. So if you're on the side of the government, like, okay, you want to show how to your side. If you're on the side of what's to make the government evil, they're going to exclude the soldier that's operating his hand. Hello, room one time. Hello, room one time. I've got two power banks at home, so you can one. Do you have your own power bank? Yeah, but I don't think I have.
My phone. I hit someone's shoulder. Fuck. Okay. I think. Oh my god, I can't get excited.
Hello, room one time. Room one time. Hello, room one time. No, I think so.
Hello, hi. How you doing, buddy? You got the water. Water. Thank you.
Which motion you get to me?
First one. This motion. time.
Can you just go to the toilet?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll go to it.
Yeah, sure. Hello everybody, my name is Omar. My name is Pando. I'm from Utimara. I'll be your chair for round 1 of the APU Debate Open. Okay, with the first motion, I now invite PM to start the debate. Here. Just before you start, just state your preferred gender pronoun.
All right. Okay. My name is Uchina, and my preferred gender pronoun is she. Yeah. Sorry, can I just exit out? It's a bit distracting. It's a camera.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm looking at myself. It's distracting.
Wait, let me ask.
Are they recording?
Oh, it's recording me?
Let me ask you shout this.
Oh my gosh, this is so embarrassing.
I mean, you'll see it throughout the tournament.
Okay, I look so bad from this angle.
Don't worry, everybody looks terrible and
I mean, you can set one day
the light comes.
Again?
Yeah.
Oh, they didn't ask for my consent.
Then again, it might just be like a campus.
Yeah, also this Malaysia.
Okay, we can
You guys can start.
I can stop it, yeah?
Yes.
Or it's okay, it's recorded. I just don't want to see my face. There we go.
I'm not so sure. Okay.
Social media is a platform that is used to interact, to spread messages, to share ideas through text or pictures or emojis. Platforms like Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr, Snapchat has been such a popular thing in our world today, almost become a necessity in order to spread your ideas and to spread messages. It is basically an avenue of expression, and the most easiest avenue of expression and the most efficient. Before I move on, some clarification. Content moderation is a system in which content is viewed and accessed, and when they believe it's to be right or necessary, it is affected and even banned when they feel so. Okay, in our world today, we believe that people should have the freedom of expression to share their ideas or opinions or just random thoughts in the way that they want to be seen, in the way that they want it to be heard and to be said. And why is this platform important? And why is it necessary for people to express themselves as the way it is? Right? It not only does the platform promotes connection with people, interconnection, integration of other people, but it also promotes sit down. It also allows people to express themselves through this platform and sometimes in ways that they cannot do in the real world and in real life. Okay. So as government, outside of government, our mechanism says that we should not censor or implement any forms of content moderation on content or messages and pictures like that that is chosen to be posted publicly, chosen to be sit down, into the public and to everyone else. So for my arguments, firstly, I will talk about how content moderation restricts the freedom of expression. Number two, I will talk about how it lessens the impact of the messages that is brought about. And number three, I will talk about how it is more harmful to not allowing dissenting views to be shown on public sit down through social media than it is through as a form of content moderation, right? So to my first argument, how content moderation restricts the freedom of expression. See, social media at its best is an avenue of expression, as I said before. And if you let it be like random thoughts that you make in the shower or to political views that you are against, the main purpose of it is to let people express themselves in a way that they want to be seen and the way they want to be heard. So content moderation, when you moderating content and changing it is a direct violation to not only basic human rights, but it also destroys the main purpose of the platform of social media itself. Content moderation means changing a person's message or their expression when they feel it's necessary, and it's based on the company's criteria or their point of view. We must know that no one has the right to say that. To choose what is right and what is wrong to be placed, to say that this is too explicit or this is too wrong or this is not right. No one has the right to say that, and therefore people should be able to express themselves without being restricted. Sit down. Okay. Going to my second argument, how it lessens the impact of the message, right? People utilize text and pictures to reinforce a certain message that they place online on social media. For instance, naked photos of women who have suffered scars from domestic abuse, it reinforces and strengthens the idea that this abuse has to be stopped, right? It empowers messages even more when you utilize social media at its complete max. These messages at its truest form have a lot of power, and they can change the world by raising awareness and by displaying the struggles of people more vividly in a way that's more effective. So when someone decides to ban a nude photo as a form of content moderation, the impact of this message decreases, right? The power of it decreases, and this makes this makes a horrible world when people cannot express themselves, and the message that is very good cannot impact people in the way that they want to be impacted. Before I move on to my third argument, yes.
Would you remove all laws regarding hate speech because you believe people should have the right and absolute right to express themselves?
Yes, we should. Wait, sorry, say the question again?
Would you remove all laws regarding hate speech because individuals have absolute right to express themselves?
We say that individuals have the right to express themselves, even hate speech, and we would still allow it. And this moves on to my third argument of why that it is more harmful to not allowing dissenting views such as hate speeches being viewed publicly as a form of moderation. See, it's very harmful in two main ways, okay? When people post a view that is discriminating or is insulting, such as rape jokes or racist insults, social media and the people in it have the power to go against what they say, to go against it and to say what is right and what they believe in. This brings about an important debate, important discourse and argument, and it increases the fight against discrimination that would have otherwise have been less impactful and would have otherwise been left unsaid when people just stay with that point of view and stay with that mindset instead of not being allowed to express themselves and be corrected and to be fought against. And that is very harmful because then people will remain in that discriminating mindset that society has already in place on them. Where so social media can be a powerful tool in order to correct that, in order to take that away and stop that. Sit down. Secondly, these people who are who insult or discriminate will turn, when they do not use social media, they will turn to use more radical and militant means to express their views. And this means more rallies, more protests, more physical, more physical means that is usually more violent and would mean people are more harmed. And the fight against that will be harder to do so, because it is harder to go against and to fight against, because people will be less willing to put themselves in harm's way, to put themselves to take part in protests as well, because they are scared. Because of this, social media is the best platform to use to fight against discrimination and bigotry. It is the best way to correct people, and it's also the most effective and peaceful and non-violent way to fight against discrimination and so that. So what have I told you today, right? I have told you why the freedom of expression is very important, and how social media is a powerful tool in order to express yourselves, and to ban it and to moderate it and to affect it and change it is a direct violation to basic human rights, and completely goes against the main purpose of social media itself, right? And we also say that no one has the right to say what is wrong and what is bad, what is too explicit and what is too provocative for anyone to say, right? And I have also showed you how it is very harmful for people. It is very harmful to ban certain dissenting views to be used on social media, because I have proven why social media is the best platform to fight against discrimination. And with all that, I am very proud to propose. Thank you.
Thank you, Katrina. I now invite Sid and leader of the Here.
In a world where structural discrimination has victimized minorities for decades, we cannot empower the discrimination, bigotry, and hate that continue to subjugate them. We will not live in a world where the most vulnerable are forcibly exposed to the most putrid of people and they cannot opt out. We will facilitate a world that allows them to live in peace, that will allow them to live comfortably. And we are fine with screwing over a few bigots if that's what it takes. But before I move on, what's the burden from team opposition? We say that we may never stop bigotry, but we can always minimize the harm it can carry. So what we're going to prove to you today is why we make the world that much less horrible for minorities who don't have to now in our world be exposed to further forms of discrimination and oppression. We support moderating out hate because it reduces harm. And that means in our world, at least, we'll have much more liberal content being the focus of discussion, not the content coming from the bigots. But before I go into my arguments, there are a number of rebuttals to team government. The first question in terms of response: does social media being a medium of expression warrant no moderation? Where do we draw the line at expression? We think we draw the line when it comes at the expense of another person's superiority. That's why if you feel like you can only express yourself by being a murderer, we don't legalize murder. Because taking away another individual from his family, making him feel unsafe and uncomfortable, jeopardizes his ability to accrue the same amount of happiness in society. That's why we have hate speech laws, things that you're willing to support, things that if we didn't legalize would traumatize minorities for life, would spur more violence by enabling the hate of other individuals out there. You support these things. When we can ascertain the harms that can be accrued by minority, that's when we have the right to decide. No, thank you. But for those whom you said have no other means of communication other than Facebook, we think that these are the people who are most victimized on your side. So for the poor, for the black guy who just wants to go online to speak to his uncle, he's going to have to go online and see a bunch of angry white people tell him why he deserves to be in jail, tell him why his father and mother are a bunch of monkeys. For children who just want to go on Facebook for group assignments, they have to go online and see nude pictures of individuals whom their parents won't be fine with them seeing. So you have reduced the ability for them to opt into Facebook, the point at which you make it that much more hostile. But the second question in terms of response: Will this allow for better discourse? And I'll deal with this further in my arguments. We think that the minorities in the world do not consent to being social battering rams. So regardless of what the aims of your side are, they don't deserve to be the individuals at the brunt of receiving the harms. If they want to have some peace, don't make them have to be like victim blamed for their peace. Don't make them have to be discriminated for their peace. They're going to be the ones who get the most amount of hate in your world, and it means the most amount, like they'll have to go through and internalize all those harms. But the final question, in terms of rallies, we think we can police rallies, we can make sure that you can't act out on your expressions, but the distinction is you don't have to be out there when the rally happens. You can always stay at home. You can't upload on Facebook sometimes because it's important to your expression and it's important to your identity. But before I move on, yes.
But if someone can still choose to see what they want to see, such as, for instance, blocking a certain person that they don't want to hear from, then why is it still bad? Why is this content moderation still be needed if someone can still choose to see what they want to see by blocking someone?
We say it's harder to block out some things when they're allowed to exist on its own in the social media. So the point at which you don't moderate, a lot of different sorts of views on that discrimination, which are equally as bad, can exist. You can have whole entire movements based on that, and you as an individual won't be able to take it out because you're one person fighting against an entire group of bigots, an entire group of individuals that choose to discriminate. So it will always be disproportionate in your world. But the first standard that we're going to adjudicate this debate on from opposition, why social media should strive to amplify protection. We're going to prove a number of things. Firstly, we're going to prove how does non-moderated content hurt victims. We think that in your world, more people are exposed to hate that they otherwise would not have been, because your hate is going to be amplified via social media by giving the bigots a huge platform to act out on all of their discriminations, to act on all of their prejudices. This means that movements now have a greater traction, the point at which we can use Facebook and we can use Twitter. For example, Azealia Banks has a huge influx of new followers because she's increasing the amount of controversy that she has by being bigoted. We think that in your world, you will also have no accountability for the actions. And this means that for an individual who otherwise would not have acted out into bigotry because he knows he'll be called upon, he knows he'll be removed his right to Facebook, he doesn't have to fear that anymore because he can act without persecution, he can act without prosecution. So now what this does is social media becomes unsafe for minorities, and there are a number of harms that occur. One, for all the minorities out there who want to use Facebook, they're going to internalize all the hatred that you're putting out there upon themselves. When they see more posts that victim blame, when they see more posts that are racist, they're going to take that and feel that and internalize it when they go home, when they see their friends, when they interact, and this can affect the way that they live as individuals. We don't want to make more people depressed, and we don't want to traumatize and scar more individuals, but that's what you do when you don't allow them a way to opt out of these forms of things. But in your world, they're going to be able to see their friends post up things that are extremely bigotry, and they won't be able to feel comfortable with themselves anymore. They're going to have their identity ruined because they're being told daily on Facebook itself that their identity is one that's bad. Their identity is one that they should be forced to opt out of. And that's a harm that they won't be able to run away from. But the second harm is that more people are going to be forced to opt out of social media. So if you really do want to block out those harms, then you can't use Facebook anymore. The point at which there are just too many groups out there that now have the ability to be full of hate. And when they do opt out of Facebook, this means that for all your minorities, won't be able to have any form of expression. Some people actually find some form of happiness when they can network and when they can connect, but they won't have these things anymore when they can't go to Facebook. For all your children who will now be forced to see nude pictures, parents won't let them use that medium anymore because they believe it's one that's unsafe and one that propagates rhetorics they don't support. And this means that they're going to have much more insular forms of these individuals being able to find some form of happiness. But the third harm is that there's even worse forms of bigotry. So if people do things for attention, we think that then in your world, for those who aren't even bigoted, if they know they're saying the most controversial things, don't get harmed, don't get deterred anymore, they're going to say the most controversial things to be the most popular figures. This means that in your world, you're going to increase the forms of hate that they can spew out, and this means more individuals are going to follow them. So when Azealia Banks was bigoted, more people followed her in order to top their other things that are more bigoted and homophobic in nature. So I have much more controversy focus around me. This means that in your world, it's only going to be an escalation of harms and an escalation of discrimination that exists within the people because you won't be able to counter that and you won't be able to crack down on that. But the second thing we'll prove on why discourse will always be disproportionate, and this deals directly with their arguments. Who will monopolize discourse? wielding the privilege who can afford to do so, because they want to protect their privilege by disenfranchising minorities. For richer individuals, they can buy likes and views and shares to make the content the most popular. They have the most access to resources. In your world, if the privilege and the bigots are the ones who have the most amount of access, they just use all this privilege to make sure the sort of discourse that happens out there is one-sided towards their views and towards their bigotry. You'll cut out any form of liberal ideas that could exist, and therefore the discussion that you want to have won't be able to include the minorities who are being heard. You only empower their views and you empower their hatred, but you neglect the individuals that need protection the most, the individuals that are always victimized.
Thank you, Alo. And now I invite DPM.
Thank you. Here.
Yeah.
We think it's absolutely horrible that side opposition will be okay with people living in ignorance and not seeing the full picture of things that they need to know and just basing their opinions and decisions off half the picture that they see, the picture that could very well be very biased. So I'm going to bring to you in my speech one very important argument on how it is harmful to prevent people from seeing the full picture and all the harms of that. But before that, some rebuttals. But first, let me start off something very important. So, like the values by which this moderation is carried out is probably always going to be based on very arbitrary values, meaning depending on who moderates the things, those values will be set upon that person, and the person's values might not always agree with what the general population would want. So, on to my rebuttals. So, they brought up in a POI, they were wondering if we would remove all laws regarding hate speech. To answer that, we say yes. So even if the speech is hateful, it hurts some people, we won't know the root cause of that hatred if we don't take on that hate speech head on. We wouldn't fully understand the problems that those people are facing if we do not take the time to understand the problems, right? And then they also claim that we empower discrimination and bigotry. We believe that you empower discrimination and bigotry more when you shut down minority voices, because normally it is the minority voices that actually need to speak out, because it's the needs of the minorities that are mostly neglected by people, politicians, and people in power and money and the sort. So oftentimes, people do not think of the problems of minorities. People might think that certain minority problems are just blown out of proportion, and people think like, oh, they're just minorities, we shouldn't care about them anyway. So it's mostly the majority people that are unempathetic when it comes to minority problems. They also brought about, so they liken murder to hate speech. So that brings about the question, would they prosecute people that spur hate speech the same way they prosecute people that actually have murdered people? Nishan.
So there's no more incitement again for genocide punishments in your world. Like that wouldn't exist.
If it's purely speech, no, we're not going to prosecute them the same way that you prosecute people that actually commit murder. So they talked about police rallies not erupting. We think that it's more likely that police rallies would erupt. Sorry, they claim that they can take on police rallies by saying that, oh, they just like amp up security, things like that, people are unlikely to break out into violence. But the thing is, in the status quo, a lot of violence already happens. Like we see all over the world, whenever people are truly enraged by issues, they break out. For example, in Egypt, in the Arab Spring, there were like policemen controlling the crowds, but people didn't care. People still resorted to violence because they felt like it was the only way their voices could be heard. So violence erupts anyway. So they also talked about exposing people to hatred, greater traction, things like that. And they also brought up Azalea Banks. But the thing about people like Azalea Banks is that they bring about awareness, which is crucial when we take on these issues head on. So not everyone drawn to the issues that Azalea Banks brings up agrees with her. There are equal amounts, if not more, dissenters that are actually drawn to the issue of Azalea Banks. So for every person that spurts hateful rhetoric, there will be a counterbalance of people dissenting against those hateful rhetorics, right? So they brought up the people who internalize this hatred. We think, okay, maybe, but there will also be people opposing discriminatory discriminatory racist rhetoric. So they asserted that people cannot opt out of social media very often. Well, people can. It's based on their choice. They can. The alternative to social media is actually interacting with people outside of social media.
Point, sir.
Now on to my main substantive on the harms of preventing people from seeing the full picture. So let me tell you how and why this happens. So obviously a lot of political bias happens. So if someone is pro-government, or maybe the person who has influence on the moderator is very pro-government, they would probably only allow pro-government posts or content being posted, and vice versa, right? So when the moderation might be affected disproportionately by a certain party to be biased, this kind of disparity can happen. So for example, information praising certain political parties, and then maybe someone in the moderation team would disallow certain counter facts or counter narratives being posted. So for example, in Malaysia, if someone posts a pro-BN thing, and the moderator is very pro-BN, the person that posts a pro-opposition view wouldn't be able to voice out to the same extent as the person that posts those pro-BN posts. So things like religion, people are also very passionate about religions, right? There are many sects in religion, and some of those sects in the same religion hold opposing views. So with people constantly fighting about which sect is correct, which religion is the one true religion, we don't think it's great to empower just one party disproportionately when it comes to voicing their views. So if a minority religion or a minority sect were to voice out, and if the moderator were to have the power to shut out one party, it's very likely that the minority party will be shut out. Their views will be shut down the most because they have the least influence, the least numbers, things like that. So there's bound to be a group that has more money and influence, and more influence would affect the sort of moderation that happens on social media. So content moderation will also disproportionately empower a particular group and disenfranchise another. So yeah, that's it.
But you can still discuss whatever you want peacefully. But if we moderate all hate speech, won't we have much more minority discourse that in your will be crowded out by these groups that are filled with bigotry?
They simply ignore the importance of hatred, or the perceived importance of hatred that those people that spur hate speech have in that hate, right? The reason why maybe the way of people that spur hate speech get politicians to do certain things is to express the extent to which they're affected. And maybe the only way they can do so is through hate, because it's the only way they can express the emotions, the troubles that they are going through. They have to contend with the fact that they are shutting out the voices of people who may be very oppressed, who may have no other options in society. So even if someone were to support a cult through their speech, we will let them, because this will bring about discourse, which means we have more understanding. Because instead of simply shutting them down, we let them have their say, but not shutting them down. We also don't antagonize them as much. We make them less likely to protest violently, and they're less likely to resort to more extreme measures that could bring about tangible harms like violent protests, causing physical harm to people and property. By moderating content, you also give rise to biased perceptions, because there's always going to be a disproportionate level of influence of certain more powerful majority groups, and minority groups are always going to be shunned. It's only minorities that most of the time it's minorities that dissent because their causes are being neglected. For those reasons, for minorities, go inside government.
Thank you, DPM. I now invite DLO.
In Rwanda, in the early 90s, Hutus priests were more than happy to stand at pulpits and tell the vast majority of people that the Tutsi people were abominations of the earth and should all die. These we termed genocidaires, and they incited a genocide that later saw thousands upon thousands of people killed in one of the bloodiest things that we've ever witnessed in this current 21st century. They are more than happy to defend the rights of that Hutus priest to have done that. I'm sorry, but that poor bigot's right to express his hate is somewhat smaller than the right of an entire nation to enjoy the safety and respect of their fellow peers, to be protected from feeling that they do not belong. We think that is a worthier cause to fight for. In my speech, I want to ask two broad questions with positive matter and responses integrated. The first, is this a good platform for discourse, and can we reform bigoted views through it? And secondly, on which side do we get more bigotry, with the end standard of this debate being on which side are users better protected from bigotry, and which side you get a world where less bigotry exists. So with that end goal in mind, let's consider whether this is a good platform for debate. On this side, the general argument is this: bigots will post evil things, then they will read the comment threads, and then they will suddenly realize, oh, Maybe I was wrong about my decades-long entrenched conservative views against this community. Whoops, tomorrow I'm going to treat women better. We think this argument is premised on a few false assumptions. The first assumption is that bigots are susceptible to change. We don't think this is true at all. We think bigots are very unlikely to moderate. The easy example being the KKK, who have for, I think, close to a century now come under fire from various spheres of discourse in society, but have never moderated their views, and in fact, have a seat, have even gotten worse over the years. Secondly, it's premised upon the assumption that discourse is always consensuous, objective, and intellectual on social media. But the reality of the world is that people, especially bigots, don't post thoughtful, 8-level substantiated debate matter on Facebook when they want to practice their bigotry. They're not posting, I feel this way against you because of so and so and so. Oftentimes the intention is not to create discourse, the intention is to inflame. They are inflammatory posts that are more likely to sound like F the gays. We think that means that the intellectual material you're going to get off that, the awareness and the understanding is limited. But secondly, let's talk about the people responding, because on their side they get the masses that will speak out against. But these aren't all debaters either. Have a seat. These aren't people that are going to be practicing their rebuttals in the comment threads, trying to understand the bigots. No, these are people that are likely to say, no, F you back for saying F you the gays. At the end of the day, you're not going to get discourse, but even if you do, this is a form of discourse that is polluted by fear and polluted by anger, which we argue is a lot worse. This is more likely to polarize factions, and it's more likely to justify stereotypes. Justifying stereotypes that white conservatives are inflammatory, justifying stereotypes that African Americans are easy to enrage and easy to incite into violence. We think that kind of discourse is not preferable to no discourse. Second, have a seat. The third assumption is that you get an equal balance of power to affect the sphere of discourse. And this is where the second speaker actually does a lot of harmful matter when he talks about people have disproportionate abilities to express themselves. And we say the easy comparative is that rich people with more resources often have a greater ability to spread their bigotry and affect the sphere of discussion. That means they're more likely to buy shares, buy retweets, pay YouTube to put their bigoted videos up on front. They have more time to tweet, they have better devices to tweet all around. These people are the ones that are likely to dominate the spheres of discussion and likely to have the biggest influence. And in that world, we're likely to see bigoted views become more influential, become more wildfire, and more likely to spread without equal and balanced ability for your martyrs of social change to do anything about it. I'll take a POI.
If Facebook had existed when Hitler was around, under your side, it's more likely that Hitler's dissenters would have been shut down. How do you deal with that?
Okay, the problem with you is that Hitler's supporters were incredibly rich, like capitalist giants, that were likely to be able to post more posts, wider posts, affect more people, and that one dissenter you have somewhere, that one Jewish shopkeeper, is unlikely to be heard at all. Your assumption is that there's balanced discourse, which we believe isn't true. The third thing is this weird pro-BN argument. Okay, let's think about what Facebook is. It's a corporate entity that is devoted to giving users the best experience. It's unlikely to filter out stuff based on political material, and this conspiracy theory really doesn't fly. Finally, the final thing they have to say in this argument is that, okay, if you don't allow them to spread their hate on social media, these poor oppressed bigots will have to express it at riots. Okay, we think if a bigot is incentivized to violence, if someone wants to go out and hurt me, they will do both. They will go on social media and say I'm a faggot, and they will go to society and beat me up at school. So we think that the comparison isn't, oh, I cannot say you're a faggot on social media, I'm going to beat you up now. No, we think that's going to happen anyway, but here's my favorite comparative. We prefer that people go to rallies, that people come out of their houses. Like my first speaker already told you, that there's a greater ability for victims to opt out of that. They can opt out of visiting conservative rallies or visiting conservative bars. But this is my positive matter, because we think there are exclusive harms that come with the anonymity, have a seat, of social media. And this is where I conclude that you guys don't get discourse, you likely get more bigotry. So on which side can you solve bigotry? Here we say the anonymity of social media is a crucial nuance that allows even worse form of bigotry. I prefer if your bigots come to the rally, because at least now there is a personal consequence to them for expressing their bigotry. Your speaker says it very succinctly in her first speech. Because of social media, I am now empowered to say things I otherwise might not be able to say in society. Great, that's evil, right? Because it means I can do a couple of things. I can create fake personalities, have a seat. I can claim to be a Christian missionary and then go and I could be a bigot against Christians, pretend to be a Christian on social media, and then do harmful things that would make me look bad as a form of bigotry. I can use my anonymity to say things that I would be protected against. You give me invulnerability to express views that harm people that in any other standard or in any other metric of society we wouldn't be okay with. We think the comparison here is this. Even if you somehow get your discourse, which I've already proven is very unlikely, even if you somehow get your discourse, you must consider the nuance my first speaker offered you and what cost this discourse comes. Because it comes with a lot of harm to individuals that cannot opt out. Worse, you force people to opt out of a common good that is a very important, tangible benefit to many individuals. Social media is a very important platform for networking and making your lives better. But if you create it as a place where you're constantly exposed to violence, people will have to opt out and lose that ability to use social media. That's a harm that they haven't dealt with. But finally, this is where we want to bin the case, because there was an incredibly soft line towards the end where they said, don't worry, La. People can block what they don't want to see. Okay, that's the exact thing you don't want. You don't want any blocking. If you want people to be able to block, where is your awareness, La? They need to come up and defend that. Thank you.
Thank you, Nishant. To end the substantive part of the debate, I now invite the government to hear here.
Is it okay? When a post is taken down from social media, when their provocative images are being taken down from their website, what exactly those bigoted lose? They are just lose a replaceable images or another even further, even hateful hate speech to be posted out later. So what exactly the censorship, those kind of content moderation do to those bigots? We want a world where those bigots will be condemned by the society. Maybe they are more privileged than those minority, but now we are now provide more higher likelihood for the people, for more netizens to be able to discuss about whether or not this post or this image is legitimate to exist in social media to begin with. Yes, those bigots won't suddenly change their mind when they are reading through those comments. But what we want is that we want to hold them accountable for what they have said. Maybe there were some anonymous posts, but we will let those anonymous hate speeches to went viral and let the public to condemn, let the public to have a bigger discussion whether or not this kind of hatred is legitimate, and we want to let those supporters to have more and more material to back and more controversial issue, trying to let those people start to think and think of the root cause to those issues and try to find some way to solve the issue. Yes.
Even the best computer technicians in China can track down proxy servers and proxy accounts. So why are you going to have any greater degree of success in identification? But even if you do, hasn't the damage already been done at the point at which discriminated minorities have seen the post?
Yeah, it's because of the minority already get hurt once they see the post. So it's useless for you to even moderate the content afterwards because the harm is already been done to those minority. So what we wanted to do is that we want to let those people to discuss about those anonymous posts. Maybe we cannot track those anonymous posts is actually posted by whom, but what we want is that we want the content of that post to be discussed. But what your side is doing is just trying to take down another bigoted images or another bigoted speeches down and just shut the discourse at that point. Rather, on our side, we'll try to provide a platform for people to discuss. Yes, why we want such platform, even if those platforms will be dominated by those privileged? Because why the platform will be why the discussion platform will be dominated? It's because of the deadlock that exists within this society. Such institutional discrimination exists. That's the root cause of those kind of hatreds, hate speeches, and also the kind of provocative images happens within the social media. We want to spice out the controversy in order to let more people to fight against those bigot in social media. Starts with social media. Maybe they will go and rally, but it is not easy to opt into rally because those people will have to bear more consequences when they go up to rally, and there might be just those minority will just lose more when they are trying to fight back those bigot theory in the rally, because as what you guys has already portrayed, those privileged are just so privileged that they can just protect themselves from those controversy. But if you now just moderate the content when the speech is posted, there's no room or platform for the public, for the netizen to discuss to begin with. Yes.
So if institutionalized discrimination may never end in your world, why should Black individuals who don't want to be part of the fight be forced to opt out of Facebook because it's no longer a community that's safe for them?
Because in your world, you also want those Black minority to be protected from those hate speech. So you are no different from us, because in our world, we want to protect those people in the long run. With those discourse provoked by those hate speeches, for example, let's take maybe there will be a very hateful comment posted under a very sexy photo by a woman, and that comment called the woman slut. And what we'll get is that those the discourse among netizens will be more supportive to those women, and such support will empower women and get those enough attention to such microaggression. So the people and public will start to think, is it true is it legitimate for them to call a sexy woman just a slut just because that she posted a sexy photo? Or they should empower the women to celebrate her body instead. So with the moderation of content, the empowerment of feminist movement will also be hampered in their case, because in our world, the institutional discrimination happens in all kind of aspects. So in their side, those censorship are totally decided by one company. There is maybe a Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr company, but maybe they're just, who are they? What kind of moral high ground they have to just decide what kind of photo, what kind of post they want to delete? Maybe they will just delete all kind of posts. This will just sweep the problems under the carpet. Those problems will still persist, and then no one will really take an action in order to solve that problem. So with what have I told you today is that why those discussion, even if it's dominated by privilege, we still that kind of discussion, and those discussions are more transparent compared to their side, because in our world, those bigots will be condemned by the public, by the netizen worldwide, rather than just lose a photo because they are censored by those social media companies. With that, I'm proud to propose.
Thank you, Dr. I now invite the author to the substantive part of the hearing.
Freedom of expression is only as valuable when it facilitates healthy environment and it manifests individuals' happiness. But when your happiness is derived from others' suffering and others' misery, therefore the happiness is an unjust happiness in the first place. We would defend a world where individuals who are biggest cannot manifest their happiness if it means that individuals will have to suffer like minorities or women under this instance. I will talk about two things. Number one, how do we best create safe environment for individuals? Secondly, is healthy discourse even possible in the first place? Before that, few rebuttals that do not fit. They say about the sexy woman will be slut shame in our world. We will protect the slut shame woman in our world better when we filter out comments that says that this woman is a slut. That's how we can help this woman better. Secondly, we say, yes, we agree that might be arbitrary standards about how we decide which speech is okay or not, but we would prefer that compared to no filter at all, because maybe we do block out certain valuable information, but we block out more harmful things. That is comparative that I will make. The third thing we say about rally, I think rally, Nishan's already made comparative why it's better, but we say in your world, rally will become worse when people can garner support. So they can just post the picture, our group has beaten up a black guy in the street, so come join us next week after they post out in the social media. So they will garner more support in your world where they have strength in numbers, where they can come together and they can create a Facebook group and say, we hate black people, that's worse for your world. So first issue, how do we best create safe environment? Note this, the counterbalance that they want to protect, that they want to defend in their world doesn't equate to the absence of the harm. It means counterbalance might exist, but the harms are already done and damages already been done in the first place. So it means a rape victim who goes out on internet and I feel like it's her fault, the reason why she got raped in the first place, would have suffered even more in your world. Women in Saudi Arabia, every day they were told that they are submissive to men and they should be subservient, and that's why the situation becomes worse now. Black individuals believe that they are subpar individuals that should never get the same right as white individuals. Those harms wouldn't have happened if these individuals do not see the post in the first place. So we say when people internalize the harms, the counterbalance wouldn't exist. So counterbalance will only happen if individuals have the ability to access that, but maybe these individuals, a rape victim wouldn't have the ability to access that counterbalance because he feels shame after he speaks out in social media. Secondly, we say it's also strengthens stereotypes that will happen in your world further. So people can spread out Islamophobia even worse. They can see that black individuals are more likely to go to jail because they are criminals in totality. So they can see that gay people are more likely to get HIV because these individuals simply are abomination of human race. These things will happen in your world when there's no filter. Individuals will further trapped in stereotypes that will make lives worse for them. So what is the comparative in our world? We say people will opt out from social media in your world when they feel unsafe. So a gay child in a conservative community cannot find solace in social media. In our world, this gay child can go to his community in social media and be anonymous and maybe feel some form of solace in our world. In your world, this child will suffer a lot more when he goes online because people will see that gay is wrong and transgender is wrong. The only way for it to be right is to be heteronormative. That's the standard that you will impose further in your world where there's no filter. In our world, people can decide and can manifest their own happiness in a certain way that is better for them because they can because they have the identity being butchered. Before I move on, I take one.
How do you make a gay child more comfortable about their homosexuality when they are still hiding behind the veil of anonymity when they express themselves online?
Yeah, I think it's good. I think it's good. This child doesn't have obligation to fight the structural barriers that exist in your world. This child don't have to suffer the gay conversion camp if he comes out openly, if he being closeted. So we will support this child being closeted if it means a better life for this child. Secondly, is healthy discourse even possible? The first thing that I will say, these individuals who come out or who are biggest, they are not there to change. These individuals, they are being viewed as martyrs. The more you fight them, the more they will fight back. So the comparative is not they will change or they will not change. They will never change under both sides. So the comparative is we wouldn't allow them to spread their views, their hatreds. So these things will be reduced. Secondly, we say there's no accountability in social media. You can be anonymous. You can make like Hello Kitty one, and then you say like black people are like crazy bastards. So those things, and then if your account gets blocked, the next day you can make a new account Hello Kitty 2 and then still say the same thing. So under those circumstances, the accountability is little to none. We would prefer a world in our world where there is no such thing happen. Thirdly, we say that social media works based on algorithm and also things that are based on your preference. So it means if you are conservative, the only thing that you will see on your newsfeed are conservative things. Because Facebook will only show you things that you like. So it means you will create more echo chambers in your world because people can never opt out from the bubbles. You will prefer a world where individuals don't have to express their bigotry, so they won't be trapped in the cycle of their own views. So in your world, will be trapped in prisons where they will forever be bigoted because that's how social media works. So if you like music, they will show you more music things in your newsfeed. If if you're a bigoted person, they will show you more bigoted things to make you like Facebook even better. So we say because of these things, healthy discourse is not even possible, given that there's no accountability and there's no platform for individuals to engage in healthy way. The fourth thing that we say is that there's an asymmetry of power when it comes to discussion in Facebook or social media. So it means richer individuals can buy likes, or they can just block out views that they don't want, or they can just like pay people to look at their posts. These things wouldn't be accessible for minorities like black individuals or gay individuals. They wouldn't have this avenue to express themselves. The fifth thing that we say is that even if you do identify the root cause of these individuals and then you can fix them somehow, we say these harms or this hatred are irrational in the first place. So even if you identify the root cause, there's nothing that you can do to them. They will remain their own beliefs. They will keep believing that women should be subservient to men. So there's no way for you to change these individuals, even if you do identify the root cause, because these causes are irrational in the first place. So there's no basis of this belief in the belief, and there's no way for us to fix it. So the last thing that we say is about emotional discourse. Discourse that will happen will be based on fear, based on vengeance, based on anger in your world. So after the black guy actually speaks out against the white privilege in your world, so this black guy will bash even more in your world. So the comparative is we prefer when social media becomes a safe place for everyone. Yes, bigotry cannot be solved, but we can tone down bigotry where individuals don't say the worst thing possible in internet, because these bigoted individuals, they wouldn't have said those things if they are in real life, because they fear the consequences, their social backlash if you say that. But when you are online, you can say the worst thing possible and get the most traction because there's no accountability for you even after you say these things. So a healthy discourse is not possible. If healthy discourse is not possible, the comparative is no discourse is completely better compared to a tilted discourse towards bigotry. You prefer a world where no discourse, even if it means that these views wouldn't be tackled. But the last comparative I will make is that discourse is completely unimportant when it comes to protection of individuals like victims of rape or women. These harms wouldn't have been backed by these individuals. If you want to protect like discourse, because discourse is an absolute good, but protection of harm is an absolute good by itself. For all those reasons, I'm proud to oppose.
Okay, thank you. I'll go if I now invite opposition reply. Here.
Fighting a battle that's doomed to fail means exposing yourself to much more pain and suffering in vain. We don't have to fix the world. We just need to make sure it doesn't become worse. An expression of hate is an attack on a person's liberties and his or her securities. And we do not think allowing bigots to express their discriminatory views makes this world any much safer for the minorities. Instead, it means that for individuals who have already been victimized, they are forced to go through life knowing that they cannot opt out of that hate and they cannot opt out of that pain. In my reply speech, I'm going to ask a number of questions to deal with team government. The first question I'm going to ask: will moderation allow for an equal discussion? We think here's the distinction they missed out. You moderate in status quo the point at which more people would be hurt as a result of that discussion. This means what we do moderate out is hate and discrimination. We don't moderate liberal views right now because it's not offensive and it's a positive thing. It doesn't result in anyone being offended and traumatized deeply. Given Facebook is an independent party that is most neutral, we don't think they're going to be the ones who are most tied down to politics anyways. So what happens in status quo and what we are defending is you moderating out all forms of liberal discussions that are aimed at helping individuals voice out their opinions for a better, more inclusive change. But the best case scenario in their world, that even if minorities can now speak up, here's why they cannot win. The concession they made, that minorities will always have less influence, means that in your world, the crowding out of social medias by the individuals of privilege who do have more influence means that the comparison is on a scale. You increase the amount of bigotry that is forced to exist because now you put the privileged individuals on the defensive. in order to counter all the new forms of discussion and groups that are liberal. They'll just put much more money into buying views and buying likes for rhetorics that are offensive and are discriminatory. They'll put much more individuals in charge of putting out much more hate on a daily basis to make sure that whatever discussion you may have, we can counter that by 5 times more. What's the comparison here? In our world, where we don't do anything and we might not change the world, at least we don't have that much more of an exacerbation of discriminatory sorts of speech on social media. We can still opt into Facebook without having to see assholes on our timelines. But in your world, you'll be forced to see that, and you won't be able to counter the influence of these rich people. But the second thing is that in your worst case scenario, you're going to have a lot more hateful comments. And on a scale, you increase the harm that these people are exposed to. So we don't care. We think that structuralized discrimination will always exist because these people have simply had the upper hand for years and for generations. What we don't want in society is have the poor black boy wake up and know he's going to be exposed to a harm that he cannot opt out of. And we think they downplay the way individuals are affected. As a gay individual, to be told that my entire identity is wrong and the antichrist, that's not going to be something I take lightly. They're going to take that back to their rooms. They're going to keep that in their hearts when they grow up. And these are the individuals that will be forced to opt out of your society as well because you make them believe that it's that much more hateful. If they don't want to be part of your fight, don't force them into that fight. We'd rather them opt into Facebook, express themselves, share some pictures, share some stories, and be the people they want to be. You deny them the opportunity, the point at which you make Facebook inaccessible. But the second question, will discussion raise awareness? In your best case scenario, if communities do rally against bigots, in the fight for that, we think that minorities are still going to be forced to be exposed to a lot more traumatizing messages, and they don't deserve to be your social battering rams. But what's worse is you have an us versus them mentality. So it'll eventually be a fight of attrition between who can last more in proving that we can rally against you better. If it's a privileged individuals against minorities, we don't think you have the ability to fight back at an equal propensity, and you will lose. When you do lose, you have in that society a much more larger sphere of hate, a much more larger sphere of bigotry and discrimination. And this is a world that's less preferable for the individuals that are victims because we're less able to protect them.
Thank you, opposition reply. To end the debate, I now invite government reply. Here.
I think it's very important to note how side opposition completely disregards the difference between giving the moderators the autonomy to and giving the users the autonomy to what the users see on social media like Facebook. The assertion that it's harder to opt out of rallies is totally untrue. They totally disregard people having to close down their shops, close down business operations, and having roads blocked when these rallies happen. Opting out of social media is way easier. We can just click a button and you're gone, can click block. Don't want to see this anymore. You won't see posts like that anymore. So what else did it not justify? Opposition also didn't justify why it's okay for people to form opinions or make important decisions that are vital when vital information is omitted. They never justified making those decisions, forming opinions from biased opinions and information. They also didn't tell us why it is okay for people like, for example, very oppressive leaders to have dissenters on Facebook. They never tell us why it's okay to shut them out even more. They also fail to realize that under our side, we give them that one more avenue that they can dissent. So they conceded that rich and powerful people have more influence in the status quo. But the thing is, in the status quo, other forms of media, other than social media, have higher barriers of entry to get into. For example, newspapers, mainstream cable TV, private television cables, things like that, are even harder to get into than social media. by taking out what people see on social media, by moderating the posts that minorities post on social media, you are shutting their voice out even more. You just made the barrier of entry even higher when you also moderate the things again on social media, because like they considered it's more likely for minority views to be disregarded, to be moderated out. So the problem with Facebook and the status quo is not that they moderate out liberal views. It's that they moderate out right-wing views. That's the problem we have in status quo with Facebook. We think that's harmful even if they only further liberal views, because as long as you disproportionately favor one side, we don't think it's fair. We think everyone should have equal representation. They never said why it's okay for people to be not fairly represented, right? So on the point of violence, they never really addressed how they would stop violence at all. So they claim that it's easier to turn away from violence in real life than on social media. But the thing is this: people can force violence onto you when you see people, when those people are in contact with you in person. Whereas on social media, you can only be threatened, but never can really be physically harmed by someone over social media, right? So there's a talk about things like nudes, things like Azalea Banks. They never really addressed why the dissent is so bad or unproductive, because all they said was that people would have a lot of rage. But we already told you in my speech that rage can also lead to better understanding, because when people truly take into account the source of the rage, why people are so enraged and why they're willing to go so far, people then become more empathetic, more understanding, and it's more likely to lead to actual change. So their side doesn't offer you a comparative where they actually solve problems. On our side, we bite the bullet. We say, yes, there may be more rage, but we take that rage and turn it into something positive. We take that rage and turn it into actual tangible change. So under their side, all you do is ignore the rage, ignore the sufferings that minorities go through. Whereas on our side, we are more than willing to deal with the short-term harms, because we know that we come up with more long-term tangible harms in the future. We propose.
Okay, thank you for the debate. We now cross the floor and shake hands. I'll call you back in about 5-10 minutes. Like that. Okay, thank you.
So late already.
everyone.
Let me check.
Maybe we should sit.
Okay guys, hello again. My name is Pandu. I'm just going to keep this very short and simple because all of us just want to go home.
Yes.
Okay, first I'm just going to give my general feedback about the debate, which will encompass what is this debate about, and also on just the general questions and issues I have about the debate. Then I'm going to give the result, and I'm going to follow through with my personal feedback. Okay, on the first motion, this housing prohibits social media companies from enforcing moderation on their users. One thing that I first want from both sides is just tell me in the PM or LO what exactly is this debate about on both sides. Okay, on your side, you just want a no holds barred, no filter, whatever, and we actually legalize hate speech. Your side said it minimizes harm of the bigotry can carry. Okay, I got two questions in this debate. How would this motion or like which side would most benefit their users? And secondly, why exactly would you carry out such model? Okay, in an average to above average debate, I give the win to opposition. Okay, here are my reasons. In my reasons, I'm going to go into detail. Okay, in PM and LO, I think the problem PM had was it didn't have such a concrete setup. What they had in which you liked was you did not exactly clarify your burden as to why you actually want to just have a no holds barred, no filter social media. You also did not exactly clarify and exemplify to us to the house who exactly uses this social media platform, who uses it, how do they use it, and what are the effects of it in the status quo, and how would this exactly change the status quo. What I felt from PM was it was mostly just reading off points of paper. It wasn't exactly trying to convince me as to why I must believe your side of the story. Okay. And when you say that when the POI said that, and when the POI came up that about legalizing hate speech, you just said you legalize it anyway, which I think was actually a very bad move strategically for your side to say, because nobody would exactly want to have hate speech put in their faces or in their Facebook timeline and them being forced to read it every day. When you brought up that hate speech, when you said that you legalize hate speech, you must also be prepared to protect as to why hate speech should be legal and why it should be on the social media. Okay, moving on. Hello. What I liked about your speech is you in your opening line and in your rebuttals, you quickly just destroyed whatever they said. Okay, maybe destroyed is an exaggerated word. What I meant to say is you actually just quickly put aside what they said as being just non what's that word? It was a non-viable way of them actually trying to bring forward the debate. What I like also what you did, you actually moderated the debate in a way by saying, okay, that will not work. But these are the benefits of moderation. These are the benefits of moderation, and also you properly exemplified what happens in a world where people are exactly are being marginalized. you also properly said as to why as to why it happens, a disproportionality happens as to where rich bigots can like just take over social media and like say whatever they want, and and they and your side could exactly capitalize on that point because they did not exactly try to protect as to why that is a bad thing or whether or not it's a good thing. Okay. You also said how it's better to just be on social media as well as be on the ground in terms of rallies, which exactly proved and you have proved to us how just being on the ground would actually be beneficial as to where they just said it as an offhand comment, whereas you properly encapsulated to us and told us why that would actually be beneficial for people to be on the ground rather than just being keyboard warriors. Okay, moving on. Okay, comparison between DPM and DLO. Okay, DPM, I like how you were very assertive in your speech, but one thing about your speech was I think it was just mostly rebuttals. It was just mostly rebuttals with just your argument being thrown in between just to fill the gaps. Because okay, as the adjudicator, you should actually just tell me where you must okay. One thing about talking to an adjudicator, you must try to think that I'm the dumbest person in the room who's trying to convince me something. You didn't exactly tell me, okay, this is okay, done with my rebuttals, this is the start of my argumentation. Or you can just say, like, my argumentation is going to be integrated within my rebuttals or vice versa. Also, one other thing why DPM did not exactly carry PM's points, you did not exactly try to bring back the points of the PM, which was easily brought down by LO. That's the job of the DPM. You must exactly reiterate the point and say in your words why and re-clarify as to what she said. And also about your side, it's as if you've just been actually just the three of you. It's actually you've been reading off a paper, not exactly trying to tell me not exactly trying to convince me and have a conversation with me. Okay, yellow, great opening line. Okay, again is mostly similar, except I thought your speech was more like some. Dave, can I call you later? Dave, can I call you? I'm giving oral feedback. Call you later. Dave, please. Sorry.
Tell you're giving oral, you're gonna get in trouble.
No. Okay. All right. In your speech, you actually acted as a sort of a mini whip, as I thought. Okay, which then actually just balanced out the debate because DPM got in and like just became like sort of just became a muddled mess and say how bigotry and hate speech is still okay without exactly clarifying to us why it is actually okay. Then you came here and with your opening line say how it actually brings about killing, brings about violence and all. That exactly just destroyed their part from PM and DPM. Also, you showed the comparison and trade-off when you say when you say if you give up too much freedom to these people, they can abuse it. If you give bigots this big of a platform to actually voice out their concerns, it's just going to be very muddled. There's not going to be even discourse happening. If you say F you, I'll just say F you back. You know. Also reiterating 6 point on as to why rallies are good anyway, because the biggest can have actually a better picture of the.
Actually, it's still recording.
What?
Huh? Yeah, it's still recording. You don't want to back.
Oh yeah, no, it'll do that. They'll just filter it out and everything about it. Yes.
Moderated.
Moderated. Correct. It's one bigotry.
Okay. Last point about your speech is that it's very good for you that you iterated what Sid said earlier, and that just strengthened your case even more. Okay. Okay, whips. Okay, whips. I think what you said was actually just correct. What you did was you actually stated what PM and DPM said, but you weren't exactly like trying to destroy their case. As a whip, you must try to destroy their case as much as you can, but you were just stating, okay, this is what he said, this is what she said. That's it. I think in order for your side to actually gain more traction at this late in the debate, you must really have separate the support part of your speech and also the rebuttal part of your speech. Okay, opposition whip. About there was one point which I think I should credit it as like new matter about the social media algorithm. I think if you brought it forward, if you brought it forward in maybe Sid or Nishan's speech, it could have actually just made it a better debate earlier on. But I think I should just credit it anyway. Because I was actually just waiting for either side to come out and say how the social media algorithm really just screwed up what you see on your Facebook timeline or Twitter or Instagram timeline. Okay. Okay, what I liked about your op whip is that you did show structure, you did say, okay, this is what this is what Sid point meant. And also you did in a way say why their case cannot stand, etc. Okay. Okay, reply speech is just simple. Right? Okay. For the op reply, I think you did a brilliant job at just stating to the judge why we should win. I cannot exactly say that on the strength of the op reply alone we won the debate, but it was a marginally better reply as compared to that. I like how in the first 2 minutes you actually just properly like dissected their case and said why they're wrong, and we can next 2 minutes plus just stating why your side will actually bring about a safer world as compared to their side, which just wants to propagate hate speech and just like no filter world. Okay, we got replies. Okay, lastly, you brought about the issue of giving moderators autonomy or users autonomy. Then I thought, okay, it's going to be a good reply speech since you put that crux there already. But that was just a one-liner. I was actually making more from that. Okay, and this is actually a contradictory statement coming from your side. When you say you want a no filter social media, which makes you see the true horrors of stuff or like true nature and like full on expression, like if you say that if you don't like what you see, you can just block it out. I think it just like destroys that one line can just maybe like rosakkan your case, because it's not exactly strategic to say, because they can say that if they don't like anything, if these moderates don't like what they see on their timeline, they can just block a post from that person. As to what you want, which is just a free world, free speech, free expression and everything, I think you should not have said that early on, in the reply speech. Also, when you mention about the higher barriers of entry, I think that could have been easily put in an earlier speech. In an earlier speech, maybe either PM or DPM, because that would have brought actually more substance into the debate as to just whether hate speech is good, whether hate speech is bad, whether it brings violence or bigotry or not. So, okay, with those reasons, I give the win to op. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
I will come for personal tomorrow, maybe.
Yeah, sure.
Prevent ourselves.
Yeah, sure. Wait, actually.
Can you do it?
No, it's not good. Okay, okay. Can we do it on my button?
How about we ask for the feedback tomorrow?
Yeah, actually, I think it's better if I just give it feedback tomorrow.
Okay. You? I was surrounded. How do you spell your name?
Pando, Pando.
Okay.
So well, Pando.
Actually, it's a nickname, so it's just
Okay.
He's like, I'm Omar. No, actually, I'm Pando.
I'm used to getting my real name on that, so this is my first time getting my name on that.
Yeah,
You too.
You too.
You guys staying in the hotel?
What?
Staying in the hotel?
Okay.
Too bad.
Bye.
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 Oh, ini Shan, sini di hotel lah.
Should we do a WhatsApp?
Yeah.
You guys, I'll just give OA tomorrow.
Okay.
Okay.
Catch me doing breakfast.
All right.
Good night. Good evening.